Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Podcast here on my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is John Campea, of course, on this beautiful Thursday morning. It's August 17th. Whole bunch of stuff to talk about here today. Got a couple items in the world of movie news I want to talk about, some television stuff. Going to take a bunch of questions from you guys that you guys have sent in to me. How do you send a question or a topic in for the John Campea Podcast? It's simple. Just email me anytime at the John Campea Podcast at gmail.com. That's the John Campea Podcast at gmail.com. Last night, one of the cool things about where I live in Burbank, California right now, is that there's a lot of really cool stuff very close. I'm very hop, skip, and a jump away from Hollywood. I can be in Hollywood in 15 minutes. I got Disneyland just about an hour up the road, so I can go to Disney whenever I want to. But I also just live like 15 minutes up the road from a Universal Park where, you go and do the Universal tours and ride the rides and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, one of the things that they opened up recently at Universal is Harry Potter Land, where, look, I'm not a Potterhead. I am not a hardcore Harry Potter fan. I don't even like the first three movies all that much. But anyway, they have Harry Potter Land there, and it is something to behold. It is really something cool. Anyway, Anne and I went there last night. We've been there before, but we went there last night to see this new light show that they have. And what is really cool is you walk in Harry Potter Land, and it feels, and this is coming from a non-hardcore Harry Potter fan, but it feels like you're walking in the world of Harry Potter. It's really crazy. And then you come to Hogwarts, the castle, and it's huge, and it's impressive, and it's amazing. And like I said, it's such a great immersive experience. And then anyway, we went last night because they had this light show where they do these laser projections onto the castle at night. And it was really impressive and a lot of fun. It just really makes me very excited for Disneyland opening Star Wars Land. Because if Universal can give me that kind of an experience with Harry Potter, I cannot wait to see what Star Wars Land is like. But anyway, if you're ever around, whether you're in the Florida area or near the California area, you get a chance to go to a Universal Park and go to a Harry Potter Land, I highly recommend it because we had a good time there last night. All right, let's get on with a couple of movie news items first. Now, a couple of you will remember that the other day, Tom Cruise injured himself doing a stunt for Mission Impossible 6. And if you saw the video, you'll see that he ran, jumped across from one building to another, slammed into the side of the building, holding on by his hands and pulling himself up, and then running on. And he clearly hurt himself because as he got back up on top of the building and started to run, you could see he was limping. Now, some people, I don't understand how anybody thought this in the first place, but some people thought he missed his jump. Because you got a building top and a building top, and he runs and he jumps from a building, and he wasn't supposed to land on his feet on the other building and keep running. He was supposed to jump and then slam into the side of the building, holding on to the rim of the building with his hands, pull himself up, and then keep running. Because you see a giant crash pad in the video. You can see this giant crash pad against the side of the building. Tom Cruise was supposed to slam into the side of the building, pull himself up, and keep running. As a matter of fact, he had shot the scene several times already. So what happened was, though, that apparently this time he slammed into the side of the building and his leg was at a weird angle and he broke his ankle, maybe in a couple of places. But, he wasn't too terrible because you can see him, he got up and kept walking. But apparently that might have been adrenaline because he's hurt and they're now saying he could be out anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. He could be out as much as 3 months. And since he is the key central figure of the movie, this isn't like some other situations where, remember Harrison Ford got injured shooting, I believe it was The Force Awakens? That was fine because he wasn't the key central figure of the movie. They had lots of other stuff they could shoot around him. Apparently they can't do that with a Mission Impossible 6 movie and Tom Cruise. He's in almost every scene. So this movie is now delayed. Why is this important? Why is this key? The reason it could be very significant is that if he could miss up to 3 full months, this, number one, could affect the release date of Mission Impossible 6. They're not saying anything yet at this point, but it could affect the release date. But here's where it gets more interesting. Tom Cruise, from what we understand, was supposed to go right from shooting Mission Impossible 6 right into shooting the new Top Gun movie. So they've got the new Top Gun movie all prepped and they're getting ready to start moving on that movie. If they have to push back Mission Impossible 6 by 3 months, he's got to finish Mission Impossible 6 before he can go do Top Gun. So now we're talking about Top Gun maybe having to delay the beginning of their production. Now, you might think to yourself, oh, well, you have to put it off 3 months. This isn't like you and your buddy making dinner plans. Just push it off 3 months, no big deal. They have thousands of people and sets and locations and unions and whatever, all set in motion, ready to go on that date to be done by another date. And this Tom Cruise injury could throw a lot of things off, could throw a lot of things out of whack. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on this situation. Again, I mentioned this before in a podcast, but what this situation really does for me, Tom Cruise is 55 years old and still doing the vast majority of his own stunts. And like, say what you will about Tom Cruise, whether you love him or hate him, think he's a great actor or not, whatever. What you cannot deny is this dude's commitment to his films. Because they very easily could have had a stuntman do that, but he wants to do it all for himself. He wants to make it look as authentic and as real as possible. So as a 55-year-old man, he's doing stunts where he's jumping from one building and slamming into the side of another building. I mean, it's just, I got to admire the dude's commitment. And I got to admit, makes me want to see his movie a little bit more, knowing that he's that all into his film. All right, let's move on to the next item of movie news. This one was interesting. So we know we got a Shazam movie coming out, and it's being directed by Annabelle Creation and Lights Out director David F. Sandberg. I'm actually getting really impressed with this guy because the two films of his that I've seen, well, I've seen his short film Lights Out, then I saw his full-length feature film Lights Out, and now I've seen Annabelle Creation. And I've liked all three of them. I thought all three of them have been really cool. Now, we know he has said before in the past, just recently actually, that the Shazam movie is going to be the most lighthearted and light-toned and kind of fun DCE movie so far. Okay, that's cool. I'm looking forward to seeing them do that. I don't think an entire cinematic universe should always just follow one thing, so I like the fact that they're mixing it up. And I think Shazam is actually a pretty good character that they can do that with. But you can't do a lighthearted, fun movie if Black Adam is the villain. And originally, Black Adam was supposed to be the villain. Now he is not. Well, David S. Sandberg was being interviewed recently, and he basically confirmed what we all kind of thought already, that the earlier drafts of the script did indeed have Black Adam as the villain. And I am all for Black Adam not being the villain in the first Shazam film. I think you build up to that, because if they're talking that this is going to be kind of an origin story for Shazam, and they're doing the 14-year-old or 15-year-old Billy Batson angle, originally I didn't want them to do that. Originally, I just wanted them to ignore the Billy Batson angle. I just wanted them to do a character Shazam and get rid of that. But they're going with the Billy Batson angle, and now knowing that they want to go with a more fun, lighthearted tone, that makes sense, and that could work. That could work really, really well, actually. But anyway, if you're doing an origin story where this child now has the power of the gods, and he's just figuring out how to use this body of a man with these supreme supernatural powers, you can't make the first bad guy he goes up against Black Adam, because Black Adam gives Superman a run for his money. So and he is a dark, villainous creature, brooding, all this kind of stuff. And sometimes he's an anti-hero, sometimes he's just pure evil, but there's a lot of really interesting things about Black Adam. But it does make sense. So anyway, Sandberg confirmed that in the earlier drafts of the script, there was a Black Adam. And at some point along the line, they changed directions and they changed ideas. And how much the events of Batman versus Superman, when events I mean the critical reception, the fan reception, the not making quite as much money as they had originally hoped, still made a lot of money though. If that had anything to do with them deciding to change directions with Shazam or not, I just thought it was interesting that Sandberg said, yeah, he was in earlier drafts, but he's not now. And if they're going with the Shazam that they seem to be explaining, I think not having Black Adam is probably the right move right now. At some point, you got to have Shazam facing off against Black Adam, but it doesn't have to be the first movie. All right, and the last little bit of movie news that I want to talk about here is, of course, a little bit of a downer. Of course, we remember the other day, in Vancouver, Canada, on the set of Deadpool 2, a stunt woman tragically lost her life while performing a stunt for Deadpool 2. Now, I don't know all the facts. I'm reading a few things here or there. I've just read the same stuff that you guys have. It looks like this was not the first take. She had done several takes of the shot already, and that in other people doing takes of it had been wearing a helmet, and that for some reason she wasn't wearing a helmet. Whether that had anything to do with her losing her life or not, we just don't know. There's an investigation going and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so obviously when somebody dies on set, they stop production. Well, they have started production back up again, and they are resumed production. They're shooting the movie again. And I'm hearing some people talk online about it's insensitive to start production back up. They should wait a month or wait 3 months and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, what I want to ask those people who say that is, what does that accomplish? Honestly, What does waiting another month or another 3 weeks accomplish? Does it lessen the tragedy? Does it somehow make it less heartbreakingly awful what happened? Does it bring the girl back? I mean, seriously, what does it accomplish? Well, it's just to be sensitive. How is that sensitive? How is waiting to shoot and not waiting to shoot sensitive? The fact of the matter is, I mean, to use an old Hollywood trope, but the show must go on. I mean, you literally have, we just talked about thousands of people waiting to make Top Gun. You have, first of all, on set alone, probably like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and this is their jobs, and they're going to pay their next rent check by working on this job and all this kind of stuff. They turn down other work to work on this Deadpool movie, and we're going to risk their livelihoods. We're going to throw everything out and all that kind of stuff. I don't think you do. If waiting and holding off production more to keep going would somehow help the situation, then I'm all for that. I'm completely all for that. But unless you can say to me and show me definitively how delaying production another month actually helps the situation or helps that girl's family or helps her friends and loved ones deal with it better, unless you can show me that, I just don't know. Apparently, the government agency that's investigating the accident and looking into it has told them, yeah, at this point, we've done everything we can with, the scene and what's gone on here. You are clear to go ahead and start production again. So they went ahead and started production again. It doesn't lessen the tragedy. It doesn't increase the tragedy. There are people's livelihoods, and this is something that has to keep moving. Now, look, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You take the Ford Motor Company plant. They got thousands of workers working there, cranking out cars. If somebody were to die there, which would be horrible, just the worst thing ever. But they were now clear to resume production of their cars and keep moving and keep the operation going because now the investigators have done everything that they can. They've gathered all the information that they need. And now you moving ahead with keeping to produce those cars won't affect or interfere with the investigation. Then they need to continue because there are people's livelihoods that depend on it, despite the tragedy. So again, like I said, if in any way delaying production would somehow help the situation, then I'd say delay the production. But all that delaying the production any further, now that they've given the all clear for them to go ahead, all that would accomplish is to hurt people and hurt a lot of people who are depending on this gig and need to keep working. So yeah, I'm totally cool with it. And it doesn't lessen the tragedy. It doesn't make it any more of a tragedy. It's just a horrible, horrible situation that nothing's going to make us feel better because it was just terrible and shocking. And again, it was the second stunt person death in recent memory, because just a couple weeks ago, the stunt person for The Walking Dead took a terrible fall and died. Now we got another stunt person dying. We don't often hear about stunt people dying these days, and now we've had two. So I hope something's being looked at. All right, guys, with that stuff out of the way, let's get to the meat of the John Campea podcast, which is taking your viewer questions. One more time, if you want to email in a topic or a question, just email me at thejohncampeapodcast@gmail.com. Because I had a few movie items, I only picked out 4 viewer questions today. You can see those viewer questions if you want to look and get a kind of a sneak peek ahead of time. Look into the description of this video. I've got the questions there. So let's go on with this. The first question today comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters. It's Juan Diaz, who writes, "What do you think of the latest comments from Casey Affleck on his brother not being on the Batman movie, then trying to backtrack from it?" Yeah, so let me pull up the actual quote here. Here's the actual quote from Casey. So they were talking, I watched the interview. He was being interviewed, and one of the interviewers asked him, so, hey man, we've heard rumors that he might be in the standalone Batman movie and that he might not be, that he might be leaving. What's going on? And Casey Affleck, you can see the quote there, he basically says, yeah, I don't think he's doing that movie, sorry to say. And then the interviewer acted really shocked. It's like, is this breaking news? Is this breaking news? And then Casey Affleck kind of backtracked from it going, oh, I don't know. Is that breaking news? I just made it up. I don't know. So now, a lot of people have spent the last, 18, 20 hours really trying to analyze this piece of video and these comments and doing a lot of analyzing and all this kind of stuff. Now, as you guys know, I was in the middle of a bit of a firestorm because I told people months ago that Ben Affleck's time, I had heard from the right people who I trust that Ben Affleck's days as Batman were numbered. He may, I've said this all along, I still today think there's a 50-50 chance that he's going to be in Matt Reeves' first standalone Batman movie. But I'm starting to doubt that. But I think there's a 50-50 chance he's there. But if he is, even if he's in that Matt Reeves Batman film, he won't be Batman after that. I know this. Anyway. So then, the Hollywood Reporter at Comic-Con, Hollywood Reporter, by the way, not just any reporter at the Hollywood Reporter, this female reporter who's actually one of the best in the business. She's actually kind of legendary in the journalism circles, and she's actually a member of the Peabody Council. This is a reporter, this woman. Look into her if you want. This is a woman who has the highest journalistic integrity and the highest of reputations. Anyway, she broke a story that she had spoken to a WB source that let them know, yeah, they are already planning Ben Affleck's exit. They're trying to do it gracefully, was the way they said. They're trying to gracefully work out Ben Affleck's exit as Batman. So that story came out, and the DC panel at Comic-Con was the next day. And one of the things I said was, okay, now listen. I remember I put out a tweet that specifically said, now, tomorrow at the panel, they have to deny this story. They must. Like, if I'm the executive of Warner Brothers, I don't blame them for this. If I'm the executive of Warner Brothers, they have to deny this story. They must. They cannot let this get out of hand before Justice League comes out, because that would be a PR nightmare before you have this big billion-dollar film coming out. You have to deny it. You have to deny it. You have to deny it. And of course, the panel came and happened, and Ben Affleck denied it. Of course he did. He should have. That's right. Now, of course, he also denied he was stepping down as the director for Batman just days before he stepped down as the director of Batman. But whatever. So now this whole thing from Casey Affleck comes out. And you know what? I would love to say, honestly, I'm going to go against my own argument here. But I have to call it like I see it. And this is honestly how I see it with this Casey Affleck thing. I don't think the Casey Affleck comments mean anything. I honestly don't. I don't think they mean anything. I don't think they either confirm that he's leaving. I don't think it either confirms that he's staying. I don't think it means anything. Now, it would be in my own best interest to sit here and say, see, Casey Affleck said, but no, I can't. I honestly don't think this means anything at all. Okay, so look, if he just left his comments at the whole, so I don't think he's doing that movie. He's not doing that movie, talking about the Batman movie. Sorry to say. And he left it at that. I still don't know that it would mean anything. Because, yes, Casey is Ben's brother, but he's not Ben. And he's not Warner Brothers. So just because he said it, is it worth talking about? Sure, yes. His comments are absolutely worth talking about. But at the end of the day, he's not Warner Brothers. And he's not Ben. And I don't think you could just take his word at it that that's it, unless he was very insistent. He said, no, I had dinner with Ben last week. Ben told me directly, that's it. After Justice League is done, I'm stepping away. I'm not doing it anymore. Like, if he was forceful about it, then maybe I'd say Casey Affleck's statements mean something. But then he kind of backtracks a little bit, but I don't buy the backtrack either. When he goes, oh, wait, is that breaking news? I just made that up. I don't know. So his biggest denial is, I don't know. He didn't say, no, Ben is absolutely going to be Batman. He's absolutely going to be Batman. No, his statement was, I don't know. I don't know. So that's why I say, I honestly don't think these comments mean it either. So if you're somebody who believes that Ben Affleck is leaving the DCEU as Batman, which is heartbreaking because I think he's the best Batman we've ever had. Anyway, if you're somebody who thinks he is leaving, I'm sorry to tell you, but this Casey Affleck thing does not strengthen our argument. It doesn't strengthen the argument. Just does not. If you're somebody who thinks he's staying on as Batman, well, his denial, Casey Affleck's denial, doesn't strengthen your argument either. It's a nothing. I honestly believe, and I had a lot of people writing to me asking me to talk about the Casey Affleck comments, and they're worth talking about. Of course, he's Ben Affleck's brother. He says it, but honestly, I would love to say this is more proof that he's leaving, but honestly, I can't do that because I don't think it means anything at this point. Worth chatting about, worth noting, worth raising your eyebrow over, but honestly, I do not think this is proof that he's leaving. I don't think it's proof that he's not. It's a guy doing an interview. He was asked a question that he wasn't prepared for. He might have said something half joking. He might have not. We just don't know. So it's really not worth listing as a piece of evidence for one side or the other. And that's just the way I see it. Thanks a lot for the question, Juan. All right. The next question also comes to us from one of my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much to all you guys who support me on Patreon, by the way. And if you're interested in becoming one of my Patreon supporters, look in the description of this video. You'll see a link to my Patreon page. Anyway, Aden Mari writes, I was wondering what your thoughts were on the lawsuit against AMC from Robert Kirkman and some of the Walking Dead producers. Do you think this billion-dollar lawsuit will be the end of AMC holding this property or even having a channel? Would you like to see The Walking Dead be picked up by a company like HBO or even Amazon Prime? I think it would give the show the energy that it needs. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, a bunch of the producers and the showrunners of AMC's The Walking Dead have filed a lawsuit against AMC claiming that they are not paying out their fair share to the producers and showrunners and stuff like that because they say that AMC is kind of manipulating the system because they are both the production company per se and the distribution company, and they're, smudging the numbers and inflating the numbers to show less profit so they don't have to pay out as much money to the producers and showrunner. One of the things I need to make really clear here is that AMC, the television network, is not AMC, the movie theater chain. I know there are still a lot of people out there that think the movie theater chain AMC is the same as the network AMC that runs the television. No, they're two completely separate companies. One is AMC, America Multi-Cinema. That's the movie theater chain. Their actual name is America Multi-Cinema. Then you got AMC, the television network, which is actually, their name is actually American Movie Classics, because that's what AMC, the television network, started out as a classic movie kind of thing. And they have evolved, obviously, to making original content and stuff like that. But get that, just really understand that, because I still can't believe how many people think they're the same company. AMC, the movie theater chain, and AMC, the television company, are not connected in any way. They are two totally separate companies. Okay, so just so you know. This is one of those situations where, honestly, I know the popular thing to do is always side with the artists. And always against the man, always be against the man. In this case, the man is AMC. But honestly, I don't know what to think about this. I don't have any insider information on it. Whatever. It's just that, is this a situation? Clearly this is a situation of greed. Now, is it greed on the company side or on the producer side? Not sure. But it's either greed on the AMC side because, let's say, oh, we have to pay all these distribution fees to the distributor. Yeah, but you are the distributor. So that's fine. It's fair for AMC to pay themselves also as the distributor of the show. That's fair because they would have to do that with any other network. The question is, if they had to pay $50 million to a distributor, but they're paying themselves as the distributor $200 million? Okay, then there's something wrong here. So maybe it's a situation of greed on AMC's side. But let's not release the idea this could be a piece of greed on the producer's side as well. Are the producers starting to realize, okay, we maybe got a couple seasons left, maybe one season, maybe two seasons, maybe three, but we're starting to see the end of the line for this show. Let's get as much money out of this as we can. Let's get as big of a piece of the pie as we can. And we'll use this as a pretense. I mean, it's possible. It's not like Hollywood producers aren't greedy. It's not like television networks are greedy. Everybody in this business is greedy. Greed is good. Greed works. But I'm not quick to jump on one side or the other bandwagon. I need a lot more information. As a fan, as an observer, I need a lot more information to kind of figure out what it is I think about this situation. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there watch The Walking Dead. Do you have a thought? Do you have an opinion? If so, jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, let's move on to the next question of the day. And the next question today comes to us from Robert Clark, who writes, I was wondering if you think animated movies could one day find their way into more Oscar categories, such as Best Costume Design, Best Editing, or Best Production Design. I know that it is completely different than live-action movies, but last year we had two fantastic animated movies in Moana and Kubo and the Two Strings. Both movies had fantastic costumes and production designs, in my opinion. Thanks a lot for the question, Robert. Yeah, and you know what? Animated films, I would argue for a long time. I remember there's this one stretch where, like, I think it was 7. 7 years in a row, the number one critically rated film of the year was an animated film. And yet in none of those years did any of those films get nominated for Best Picture. Now, that has started to change. Like, it used to be that only Beauty and the Beast was the best, the original animated film, Beauty and the Beast was the only animated movie ever nominated for Best Picture. But then, what was it? Toy Story 3 got nominated. And I believe Up got nominated as well. So we've had a couple of animated films nominated for Best Picture. That's great to see. Animated films are also qualified for Best Visual Effects. Because even though one is animated, one is live action, 90% of visual effects these days are animated visual effects. They're CGI effects. So if you put together great, awe-inspiring, beautiful-looking visual effects in an animated film, that counts. So we know they qualify for that. So everybody knows I've been a champion for the animated film at the Oscars for a long time. That being said, a part of the criteria of costume design is not just the drawing and the design of the costume. It's also then taking design to the next step of actually manufacturing and materializing, if you will, that design into an actual physical costume that you then see on screen. So part of it is the sketch, the design aspect, but part of design is the materialization of it. That's part of design. That's why you see designers with pins in their mouths, also, putting their outfits together. That's part of the process. That is part of it. So on that level, even though I'm a big champion of animated films at the Oscars, I don't think production design, which again, part of production design is not just the design itself as is in the sketch. Part of design is the materialization of it and bringing it to life. That's part of it. And because of those things, again, even though I'm a big champion of animated films at the Oscars, I got to say, I don't think animated films will be or should be nominated or be eligible for things like costume design or set design. There are probably more things they can be. Obviously, they do qualify for Best Song. We just had Moana was nominated for Best Song. We saw that at the Oscars as well. I think they probably could have had 2 songs nominated. I thought the Rock song, You're Welcome, I actually thought that was even better than the How Far I'll Go song from Moana that did get nominated. But anyway, that's a story for another time. So yeah, I think there are probably more categories that can be, but things like design, I don't think so, because once again, a part of design is the actual bringing the sketch into physical reality, and you don't do that obviously with animated films. Anyway, thanks a lot for the question. And we move on to the final question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Phil Cooper, who writes, I don't understand why a studio would need to buy the rights to a book by Walter Issacson in order to make a film about Da Vinci, as they have an upcoming Leonardo DiCaprio film. He's a historical figure. I can see using some of the information in that book to use the film, but since that Da Vinci did actually happen, why do they need to buy the book in order to make this film? Okay, so for those of you who don't know what Phil is actually talking about here, it was just announced the other day that Paramount and Leonardo DiCaprio and his production company have won the rights to the upcoming Walter Issacson book, Leonardo da Vinci. Now, Walter Issacson has also written the biographies of Steve Jobs, which was the basis for the Michael Fassbender movie the other day. He also wrote a biography on Albert Einstein, which is the basis for that new TV show, Genius, is the Walter Issacson book. He's written books on Henry Kissinger. He's a master biographer, at any rate. So the question, though, is, since Leonardo da Vinci is a real historical figure, why do you have to buy the rights to this guy's book? Because all the research and all the information and all that kind of stuff that Walter Issacson unearthed, plus the narrative structure and the way he decided to put a story together and tell this story in the book, that's all Walter Isaacson's. That's all Walter Isaacson's. I mean, yes, I can make a movie about baseball because baseball's a thing that's out there. I can make a movie about baseball. But if somebody else went out there, wrote a book about baseball, and I base it on that guy's narrative, his structure, his information, his research, all that kind of stuff, I can't just go and steal it and say, oh, it's about baseball and baseball's free game. No, I'm not just making it about the subject matter. I'm basing it off his work. And if they think Walter Isaacson is the best at putting this work together and putting together stories and putting together these things in such a way that they tell great narratives and it utilizes his research and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, you got to buy the rights to his book. You have to buy the rights, the movie rights to his book if you want to go ahead and do it, because clearly they believe a Leonardo da Vinci story, a Leonardo da Vinci movie based on Walter Isaacson's work would be a much better movie than if we just try to start from scratch and do a Leonardo da Vinci movie on our own. Obviously, they believe that. They're probably right when you look at the track record of Walter Isaacson. So that's why a studio like Paramount has to go out and actually buy the rights to the movie rights to his book, because they want to base it on his book. They want to base it on his work. They don't just want to base it on the character of Leonardo da Vinci. They want to base it on the work that this guy has done, researching and telling the narrative of Leonardo da Vinci. And that's every bit as important. And that's why they need to go out and get the rights to his book. All right, guys, that will do it for me for this installment of the John Campea Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Listen, while you're here, take a second, click the subscribe button, become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. If you like my videos, it'd help me out a great deal if you click the thumbs up button, leave a comment, share this video around, or any of my other videos around. I put up a pretty cool video explaining the Movie Pass deal as well. Share that around in your social media or whatever. Make sure you're following me on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter, simply @John Campea. That'll do it for me for today, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me, and until next time. Bye-bye.